welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, gonna go over a story titled, My Boyfriend Wants to Break Up With Me Because I Lied to Him About My Past and He Feels S-word insecure. Any advice appreciated? And guys, this story is yet another one about a gal who had a really good thing going with her boyfriend, but forgot to mention in the early stages of their relationship that she has a past. Now, from what I get from this is not as a graphic past as some of these other stories, but nevertheless, she has a past and definitely led him to believe something that wasn't true, and particularly about her ex. And he's going to find out that in her past with her ex-boyfriend, the one who was clearly the bad boy and all, that she did all sorts of interesting things that you can use your imagination about with him, but not with her current guy. Even though she claims she loves her current guy so much and blah, 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 he finds out about this, and he finds out in the worst possible way, and he's done with her. And she's losing her freaking mind, doesn't know what to do. And once again, this lesson proves to the young gals out there, you better be upfront with your guy about your past, because I know that women all the time lie about their number, their experiences and all that, because in their mind, the guy will judge her, which he has a right to do, and probably wouldn't give her the time of day, so they lie. And these stories find a way of coming out eventually, whether it's a few months into the relationship or a few years after they've been married, they come out and they don't end well for the girl. Better to lay your cards out on the table, or you're going to learn the hard way. And what's cool is, a lot of these stories I'm doing, whether these guys are just in a relationship for a year or married, more and more are kicking these gals to the curb. They take the hit in the divorce or the breakup, and they move on because they don't want to be involved with this anymore. Guys are waking up and realizing, I don't have to accept this. I don't have to accept having a girlfriend or wife who, surprise, surprise, I learned later, has a ridiculously high body count, which disgusts me. Or has done things online like OnlyFans, or flaunted herself on social media. I don't need that. I'd rather be alone than deal with that. And that's good because, let's be honest, the gal's been told forever they deserve so much more. But you know what? Guys do too. So I like to see this happening in these stories here. So she starts, says, please overlook any mistakes because I'm crying as I'm writing this right now. Whether you're crying or not is irrelevant, honey. My boyfriend and I have been together for a little over more than 1 year. He is the best man I ever met, and I love him dearly. Well, notice she's 29, and that means 30 is around the corner. So the reason he's the best one she's ever met is she wants to get a fucking ring on her finger because she knows darn well once she hits 30, it's a different ballgame, and we all know this. Women hate 30. About a month or two into their relationship, I got the impression that he wanted a virgin or someone with very little S-word experience. He was also very S-word inexperienced, so I felt like he was looking for someone similar. I really liked him, and I didn't want to judge him to judge me, so I told him that I really didn't have that much sex. So at least she didn't say she was a virgin. I'll give her that. But duh, he obviously would know. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I really like him and decided that I would tell him later or when I was more comfortable with him. Translation, I'll wait. If I tell him, I'll wait till he's so in love with me that I know he won't leave me. Then I'll do that because I'm selfish. I'm an a-hole. And at the time, she was 28 years old. Clock's ticking. That big 3-0, she needs to get an engagement ring on her finger. Rope him in, and then let him find out. I told him that I wasn't a virgin, and I've had some short relationships, but I wasn't that S-word experienced either. This was a half lie because while my past S-word partners are quite low, and she says 8 partners, I did have a lot of SCX with my ex. Well, we know when a number is given, it's usually 1/3 of the real number. So she's saying 8, we're probably looking at probably around 25. The reason I didn't mention my ex is because I was in a long, toxic relationship with him. So this guy now has a damaged girl. Oh, great. And the damaged girls usually pick the nice guy and eventually get bored with the nice guy and go cheat with their ex or someone just like that. He was kind of a player type. Of course he was. And would often flirt with other women to make me jealous. He was emotionally unavailable, and me, being the young and dumb, didn't realize that I could leave him and be happy not in a relationship. The sex with him was really good. That's kind of how it works. And I kind of experimented a lot in bed with him. I would also sometimes consent to certain uncomfortable stuff. Uncomfortable stuff, huh? In other words, she was getting it up the butt. I finally left him and healed from the relationship, but I regret doing it. Well, young and dumb is teenage years, but if she was in her mid to late 20s and dating someone like this, come on. I didn't mention any of this to my boyfriend because I was afraid he would judge me or feel insecure in the SEX department. Well, you should have told him, lying by omission. It's going to come back and haunt you. And wait till you see how he finds out. So, I completely avoided any details of my relationship with my ex. Once again, this was in the past and I've completely moved on. It doesn't matter if it was in the past and you've moved on. This is who you could be a potential wife. And he has a right to know, as you have the right to know things about him. About 2 months ago, I was at a friend's housewarming party and my boyfriend and I ran into my ex. Oh, imagine that. I'm sure that was fun. I was surprised to see him and my boyfriend could feel that I was uncomfortable around him. Yeah, I'm sure her ass was sore just looking at him. Someone at the party mentioned that we dated and my boyfriend was surprised. In the car ride back home, I could feel him processing this information. He finally asked me why I didn't mention this, and I told him because it was an unhealthy relationship and that my ex was toxic, and I really didn't want to get into that right now. Don't they all say that exes are toxic? Isn't that the common thing nowadays? He was toxic, he was abusive, whether it was accurate or not. Well, my fault. I also told him that I was only in a relationship with him for a couple months and we had only had SCX once. Oh, for goodness sake. Do you expect him to believe if you were in a relationship with for a couple months, you only hooked up one time? Really? He was pondering over this whole night, but the next day he told me that it was okay and that we should move on. I thought my worst days were behind me and that we should finally move on. Well, as bad luck would have it, the chickens came home to roost again. Now watch how, as she describes, the chicken comes home to roost. Watch how this whole thing happens. About 2 weeks ago, my boyfriend and I were having SEX. He was giving me oral, and I had taught him a technique on oral SEX that my ex performed on me. I had an O, and he told me in a playful way, "You really like that, huh?" Still recovering from my O, I accidentally blurted out, "Yeah, I remember seeing stars when Blake, my ex, did it for the first time." She's mentioning her ex, that same boyfriend, in bed after that guy just went down to Chinatown on her. Really? If another man brought up another woman in bed, how do you think that would go with her? You think she'll start freaking out and spinning around like the Tasmanian devil in anger. Hell, a guy just brings up a woman in general. You guys all know what I'm talking about here. You can just mention offhand about your secretary at your workplace, and she could be some 450-pound hippopotamus-looking piece of shit, and still your girlfriend will get pissed off because you're bringing up another woman. But bringing up another woman, an ex, in bed? So you can imagine this whole scene here, her bringing up her ex. I immediately regretted what I said. I tried to play it up by saying that I was saying that about him, but he caught me in a lie. He started asking me questions, and I felt like I would lose him if I lied, so I gave him the honest truth. I told him everything. I told him that it was Blake who first showed me that technique. Oh, I'm sure he loves that. I also told him that I did have a lot of the SAX with him, and I experimented a lot in bed with him because I felt like that was the only way I could keep him. Hear that? In other words, when I tell you guys, when women really want a guy, they will do anything in the sack. But when they have a guy that they're settling with, who they know is way more into them, that guy, generally speaking, gets the bare fucking minimum, unless he's, a little drunk or something. But the guys they really want, their attention and validation, oh, ho, ho, Lord Almighty, those guys are getting anything. He told me he feels bad that I did so many things with Blake, but didn't initiate anything with him. Who could blame this guy? I told him I'm not that person anymore. Bullshit. And he says he knows, but he still feels hurt. I guarantee if she got back with good old Blake, she'd be right back to the Hershey Highway action like that. He finally asked me to be completely honest and asked if Blake was better in bed than him, and I said that I couldn't compare. Bullshit, you couldn't compare. You know darn well her bad boy ex was better in bed. Did it for her mentally and emotionally than this guy. He told me that was a cop-out answer, and he just left the room without saying anything. That's actually not a bad idea. Leave her wondering. The next few days were complete hell for me. In other words, she had all this uncertainty what was going to happen in her relationship next. He told me that he felt emasculated, that he was doing something that my ex taught me. He told me he thought we had figured it out on our own, but now knows that it was something my ex taught me. He feels inferior to him and insecure. I told him that he means so much to me and I wish I could take back, but he won't change his mind. He keeps telling me that he feels angry about the fact that my ex was an a-hole and he loves me, yet the sex with him isn't better. She may love this guy in her definition of love, as in the settling kind of love, enough to justify being with him. But in terms of the lust, the passion, the butterflies, the nice guy or the gal settle with, do not give them that. It is going to be the bad boy, the guy they have to fight for their attention and validation to give them the butterflies and the big magical O's, if you will. He keeps telling me that he feels angry about the fact that my ex was an a-hole. I read that part. I told him that it was so much better because we love each other and it means so much more, but he doesn't believe me. He doesn't believe me because he knows you're full of crap. He also told me that he feels insecure about the fact that I experimented with my ex, but not with me. There you go. I told him that I would love to S-word experiment with him, but he keeps telling me that it doesn't really count as experimenting now because I've already done it with the ex and figured out what I like. Now, it's one thing if you have a gal who's your girlfriend and she had a few boyfriends and obviously did things with the other boyfriends, as opposed to being the village bicycle. If she's being honest here, if she's being honest here and it was not too many dudes, it'd be one thing. But even then, 8 dudes that she's claiming is nothing by today's standards given the times. But I'll buy that 8. I'm thinking sure it's at least 20. So this is just, you can see this is just a train wreck. Anyway, he also tells me that he wants me to want to experiment with him and not to agree to it just because to salvage the situation. I keep telling him that it's not what I'm doing and that the sex with him means so much to me, but he won't budge. It means so much to her because she's 29 years old, the clock's ticking, and she needs to get a ring on this finger. He tells me that he didn't get to experiment with when he was young, and that's why he wanted someone who he could start to experiment with. Well, not in today's world, bro. He keeps telling me that he wants to be the best I've ever had, and now that he can't ever trust that he ever will be that. I generally don't know what to do. He completely stopped being intimate with me for the last 2 weeks. These past 3 days, he told me that we should be on a short break, and he's staying with his brother at nights. Whenever we have the chance to talk, I've tried gently telling him that it's an insecurity we can both overcome, but he keeps telling me that he is allowed to have certain insecurities and boundaries. I keep telling him that this is just a small bump in our relationship, but he apparently sees sex as one of those very high priorities and keeps telling me that he can't change how he feels regardless of how much he would like to suppress that emotion. In other words, he can't let this go, and he's always going to imagine her with that dude, amongst many other things, and the fact that she lied to him. And if he's obviously at an age, he's probably getting serious, because a guy like this is going to be thinking marriage, and you know it. This is not what he wants for marriage material. So in a way, he's dodging a bullet here. This was actually a silver lining that he can now say, you know what, I don't want to marry this one. I told him that he was also really good in bed, and sex with him means so much more, yet he keeps telling me that he feels inferior compared to my ex. There's nothing she can say at this point that this guy's going to believe. He's like a master debater. That's funny she said that. And I really, really don't know what to say to change his mind. I keep crying and wishing that I could go back in time and completely erase those 3 years with my ex. Well, unless you have a DeLorean and you have the flux capacitor all charged up and ready to go, you're not going to be able to go back in time and fix the situation. Don't waste your breath. Last time we talked, he told me that he wishes that feeling would go away, but he cannot control how he feels, but he can only control how he reacts to the feeling. I don't know what that meant, but this morning I heard from his brother's wife that he's planning on breaking up with me today. I'm so scared that my beautiful relationship with this man is going to end because of something so small. I acknowledge that it is big for him, but I can't believe that I'm going to lose him over this. I guarantee if there was something equivalent that would make a woman go crazy that he did, she'd be walking too. And we know it. Look, you're with him 1 year. It's not like you're with him for 10 years or something like that. And I'm sure this girl can get other guys. I really love him, and he was like a rock to me when my dad died, and he gave me so much support even though we were only dating for a short amount of time back then, because he's a nice guy. He is very much like a stoic person when it comes to everything in life, and I can't believe that this affects him so much. I'd already imagined marrying him and starting a family with him, but this toxic thing with my ex seems to still keep ruining things for me. Hear what she said there? I already imagined marrying him and starting a family. Right, because she's almost 30 years old. Now she has to start again, and she is almost 30, and she's not going to be as appealing. I've known many girls that fucking panic when they're getting to that. They turn 29. They hate that birthday. They're freaking out because they're single. How do I convince him that this is just a small hurdle in our relationship? I know he loves me too, and I don't want him to break up with me. There's nothing you can do. Okay? You listen to what he has to say, and if he ends it with you, then that is that, and you move on. Okay? And maybe in time he'll reach out to you, maybe he won't. Flip a coin. But the point is, you lied to him, and I'm not buying that number 8 for 1 second, and I don't think anybody watching this is believing that number 8 either. And that's that. In the future, you're honest with your guy about your past. Okay? And not the, well, he didn't ask me lie. No. That's called lying by omission. You be direct, be honest, and these are things that guys can't get past. End of story. She said that he was hoping to get a virgin, but obviously she wasn't. So, but it's amazing to me. But I found this channel popped up in my feed. I'll mention this real quick recently, where this guy, he's in Vegas. His whole channel is just interviewing drunk women on the Las Vegas Strip and asking them questions in code like, they're drinking. He makes sure they're above the age of 18. And he asks them, spit or swallow. And they're drunk, so of course you can imagine the answers. Or favorite position. Or front door or the back door. Okay? And he also asks them, what's the number one reason why women lie about their number? And they all say the same thing. Because the guys will be completely turned off or disgusted or anything like that. So, in the future, think what you're doing, young ladies watching this. There are consequences to actions. It's going to come back to haunt you. And you better be honest to your guy, otherwise it's going to come back someday. But the fact that he met the boyfriend, remember? And he eventually swept it under the rug. But while they were having sex, he was going down in Chinatown on her, and she mentioned the boyfriend that he taught, the ex who taught her that stuff to teach him. She screwed this whole thing up. So I honestly think there's many more skeletons in their closet, and this is just not working out. It's best they part ways. Been together over a year. Sometimes, guys, in life, you just got to cut your losses and move on. That's what I think about this. But we shall see. I'll keep an eye out for any updates on this particular story. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.